There we go.
Okay, so moving ahead, it being the evening of Wednesday, August 25th at 7 o'clock, a quorum being present, I'll call the meeting of the Bellingham Conservation Commission to order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's signing of Senate Bill 2475, an act related to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, the Bellingham Conservation Commission will meet utilizing the Zoom online option. Instructions and invitations are available at the town website, www.bellinghamma.org. Moving forward in this meeting, the chair instructs the meeting administrator to withhold access to speak at the meeting until or unless such persons requesting to speak are visible on screen and respectfully request such access. Okay, we'll proceed with the first continuation. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold public hearings in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation to confirm the delineation of bordering vegetated wetlands, intermittent stream and perennial stream with associated bank and bank to a pond on a 120 acre site located at Assessor's Map 95, Parcel 37, 180 Payne Street, Bellingham. Eric Diaz, Strong Point Engineering, Mainly Street, West Bridgewater, has submitted the filing on behalf of Ron Bonvy, Active Adult LLC, Mashpee, Mass. The continuation will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, August 25th at 7. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Good evening.
Hello there, Eric.
Hey, how are you, everyone?
Good, good.
Excellent. Mr. Chair, if you'd like, I can give a brief recap of kind of where we left off and what we've done since then, and we can open it up. I'm sure your consultant has some comments and things like that.
Certainly.
Excellent. So for the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering Solutions. On the call with me tonight is Brad Holmes, who is our professional wetland scientist, and the applicant Ron Bonvy is on the call as well. The last time that we were before you was, I believe, in July. We had gone and had a site walk on June 24th, identified a few additional areas that we wanted to pick up and add to the plan, and we walked through those the last time that we were here. Since that time, we undertook the process of locating all those flags in the field, adding them to the plans, and submitting them back to the town and to your peer review consultant, and I believe they got those last week. One thing that we did touch on, most of the revisions that we talked about in the field were just adding a few small areas of maybe where we thought there might be additional wetland, or there was one isolated wetland that we didn't pick up that was very small. And I can walk through those on the plan if we want to re-go through that at some point. But one thing that we talked about was there was an area that we flagged of mean annual high water that is like a mixing area of the Bungay Brook. And what we had originally thought was that there was some issues with the stream stats mapping software, and that it seems that it wasn't mapping over the top of the state line into Rhode Island. So we did a little poking around and picked another site nearby and found out that it actually does map over the state line. It's just that the watershed delineation that we had seems to end right around the state line. But nonetheless, based on what we saw in the field, that watershed area came in a little bit under the threshold that's given in the WPA for a perennial stream. But based on what we discussed in the field and what we saw, we felt rather comfortable calling that little section of the mixing area a perennial and putting the riverfront buffer on it. Truthfully, it's rather outside of our proposed project work area, so it doesn't really have much of an impact anyway on the first phase of the proposed project. So that's a brief summary. Glad to go through it in more detail if you'd like. Otherwise, we can turn it over to the commission and your peer review consultant.
I'll tell you what, Eric, can we put up the plans? And
absolutely.
I'm going to ask Matt to weigh in on this. He took copious notes, and because he was there, we did not. So we're going from memory. But I will say the commission did raise the issue of the stream stats, and we did take a peek at your explanation and the, if you will, the reverse figurine of a stream stat for a river in Rhode Island that had a catchment area in Massachusetts. So indeed, you know, they do cross state lines, and it was just odd to us that bang, right at the state line, that was the end. So you've answered that to our satisfaction, I think.
Yeah, it really did seem like a flaw in the software, but just turns out that that's how it goes.
Right.
So we'll take it. I do have sharing capabilities, so I will share my screen. Can everybody see that plan?
It's coming. There it is.
There it is. Okay, if you'd like, I can breeze through and go through what we've revised on the plan, or we can ask Matt to kind of narrate and I'll just direct from there.
Okay, before we get started, there's just one correction we'd like to make on the previous delineation.
Sure.
And you're almost on it with your, it's on
Right here.
C1. That's it, right there. Yeah. I believe we'd like that plan to be revised to reflect information from the previous ORAD, where we were relying on a narrative that was submitted, calling that area because of the proximity to bordering lands subject to flooding. I believe the letter said that they were going to call that bordering lands subject to flooding, and it is a vernal pool. So that makes it state and local jurisdictional. Yeah, that's the area. And
Yeah,
see,
so
I think what you've got is local bylaw vernal pool, but I think that the narrative said, here it is.
It's down here. This is the part. I had spoken to Eric about this.
We did, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's mapped within a floodplain. So Eric suggested that it would be bordering land subject to flooding. So that would make it state and local. And yeah, we just want to make sure that
we just need to take off the local bylaw portion of this, basically. Because
yeah, I think if we say if it's a BLSF in a vernal pool, and I think that will handle it.
Yep. So the blue line that you see here is the limit of the BLSF, and the vernal pool is located within it.
Yep.
So we can certainly add some notation to the plan just to make that a little bit more clear if we need to, and we'll take off the note that says local bylaw and go from there.
Okay.
And what series flags are that? I can't see from here.
It's the C series flag.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what I had remembered. Thank you.
The question that we had originally had on this, if you recall, we thought it might be land, isolated land subject to flooding. And then we determined, when we looked at it a little bit closer, we said, wait a minute, it's within the BLSF, so it can't be both.
Exactly.
I think that was some confusion that we had early on, but we worked that out.
We did, and we just want to make sure that the notation is right. We don't want to have the previous determination superseded by anything that shows up in a plan here, so.
And that's exactly how you had described it in your letter on June 4th of, it's June 4th. Yeah. I'm sorry, I have it here. June 4th of 2020.
Right.
Okay, great. So we can certainly take a look at that. We'll button up this plan and get a final revised copy back, no problem. And anything else that may arise tonight, we can take care of.
So now I think we're ready to turn it over to Matt.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, so that was one of the comments. So good that that's sorted out. I think if we just walk through, most by and large, the things you pointed out, I agreed with in your summary letter, and the plan reflected those well. There were a couple of things that I did catch going through that I just want to touch on. So the BLSF is one thing. On sheet C3, in the, is it the 400 series, 300 series?
300 series, yes.
Yep. Those we did find spotted salamander larvae in our initial site visit on June. I had the date a second ago.
It was
It was
before
early.
we went out. It was about
Yeah.
a couple of weeks before we went out, I think.
Yeah, I think it was June 3rd. June 3rd. So that should be identified. And again, the boundary of that, I realize, we all looked at it when it was quite a bit diminished by time. So getting a solid boundary on that would be challenging at this time of year, and I know it's off-site, but that does include a vernal pool in that C series, 300 series wetlands.
What we can do, Matt, if you like, is we do have a note on here that there's a potential vernal pool. We could add an approximate boundary and strike the word potential.
I think so.
Okay.
I think that works. And if you just, for sake of argument, use the wetland delineation, it would probably coincide. I think that's a good starting point. And if down the road, if it makes sense for you to, have a more specific or more, time appropriate delineation done, you could pursue that. But I think for now that's a good place to be.
Okay. And I agree with you. It's well outside of the project site, so that's not an issue.
Yeah, you might just run into buffer issues,
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Let's see. On sheet C5 looked good. I thought that reflected our site walk and discussion with Brad well. So I felt like that that all looks better. On sheet 6, C6, and this goes across the board for the entire plan set. I think that the commission, and I think we've talked about this, but just should make a very explicit statement somewhere in the process here that the approval of these plans, knowing that the applicant didn't look at portions of the site but may come back to them with development proposals in the future, approval of the plans lacking any wetland down on this area doesn't constitute acknowledgement that there are no wetlands. Obviously you have to craft that statement but you get what I'm driving after?
Yeah, I think what
Yes.
we're gonna do is we'll look, especially there are a couple of areas where we did one side of a resource area and not
Yeah.
the other side. So, and we'll make note of that. And usually what we say is, during review for the development portion of the project, any resource areas that are discovered have to be addressed as part of the permitting process for the construction activities.
Yeah.
So,
That makes sense.
yeah, I mean, it's standard stuff for us.
And we would certainly include the buffer zones to those resource areas as well.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Moving on. Sheet C7 looked fine. I don't think there were any changes up in there.
Nope.
C8 again looked fine. C9 looked fine. It was C10 had that new little area that you mentioned, Eric.
Up here.
And the swale that you identify, that was a little bit vague in the field, and I think remains vague here. And that might need a little more work. If you're going to be proposing any work up in that area, to determine whether or not the swale constitutes, an inland vegetated wetland or what all. It's just not real clear what the extent of that resource is.
That was the area in front of the tee box where there was some overland flow.
Yeah.
And actually, I think there's a little pipe in the fairway, and then
There
there
was
was vegetated. Is that,
it hooked up to the north.
Yeah, in fact, if we go just for locust purposes, if we go all the way over here, it's way back over here in the golf course, basically, I believe.
Yeah.
If you look at the golf, the site proper, so to speak, it's way up here in between two of the golf tees.
Yeah. And whether or not there was any, that swale, what we noticed was some wetland vegetation, but what the extent of that was, we kind of all agreed that it wasn't real clear. Maybe because of the mowing that goes on there on a regular basis. If natural vegetation were allowed to grow for a season or two, we might get a better sense of what the extent of that swale actually is. So that's just something that caught my eye. I remember that in the field and also, here. So I don't know the extent to which what you're thinking about may impact this area, but if there are going to be impacts associated with this little wetland, it might make sense to try to get a better handle on that, maybe with a more careful soils and evaluation.
So I guess this is the question for Eric. Is there any activity proposed in that area?
I think we're staying pretty well out of this area. I got somebody in the waiting room. I'm letting people in. Is that okay? I think it made me the host and I'm letting people into the meeting. No, I think that's pretty much on the very fringes of the area where we might be doing any work. So I'm not terribly concerned about that area.
What we'll do is we'll put some language in there similar to what we're going to use for the site in general. That we know that there is a small swale and the determination as to the viability of it, meaning isolated wetlands has not been determined.
Okay.
And if you are within 100 feet of that area, we'll have to make an official determination on that. It doesn't seem, if you're going to be, if it's outside an area of impact, it doesn't seem worth the effort to go out there and lock it all down and revise the plans. And so I think we'll allow it to move forward with that caveat.
Okay, I think that makes sense. That's fair.
Then Eric, on the eastern edge of this sheet, C10, if you slide over.
Yeah.
In the upper corner, yes, there's a, yeah, good. Flags 7, 18, 19, 20.
18.
Right there.
18, 20.
Yes. Yeah. Those, I think 719, I think when we went out there in the field that day, we actually didn't get over to this. But Ethan and I noticed that 719 is just misplaced. It feels because there wasn't that real distinct jag that's shown on the plan. It really 718 and 720 were almost more in line, made a line. So I think 19 probably just was misplaced in the survey.
So if we take it kind of go that way more.
Yeah, exactly. Again, if you're not working in that area, it's probably not critical to get it sorted, but just for the sake of the completeness of your plan, that would be a good thing to just verify.
We are going to get a revision for that first bordering lane subject to flooding. And so that looks like a relatively easy thing. If Eric is willing to do that, he can just revise this sheet too.
Absolutely. I think that makes sense. We might as well clean it up and get it done.
Perfect.
Great. And then finally on sheet 11, I think that your if I'm understanding, you've brought if I'm understanding your discussion earlier, you've brought the mean annual high water for the Bungay Brook down into that area where it comes together with the culverts and so forth, and you're considering that part of the perennial system.
Out of the perennial system through that area where it kind of starts to mix with the Bungay Brook and all of that stuff. We've got the Bungay, I'm using my hands as if you can see them.
I can see them.
We've got
That's
the
important. You
Bungay,
got to use, you got to.
yeah. We've got it delineated further north. The brook itself is perennial. And where this area was mixing in kind of a question mark, we thought, okay, it might make some sense to include that in that perennial designation as well.
Yeah, good.
So we did run it from flags I1 up through, I think it's I12.
Yeah, great. And again, because of the focus of your current thinking, you didn't do the other side of that,
We
which
did
is consistent with the rest of that system.
Mhm.
So again, Cliff and Ann, some kind of language that acknowledges that that's incomplete intentionally makes a lot of sense. And then I think they look pretty good.
Yeah, that whole line of wetlands, we did the project side only, and we didn't delineate the backside as of yet.
Yeah.
Certainly, before anything happens on the backside, we'd be back to do that.
Right. And the only other thing that's been on my mind, and it's not really my it's not my bailiwick, but the MIPA question that Cliff put on the table, one of the earlier public hearings. I was looking over the thresholds for MIPA review, and it you're probably going to trigger MIPA for the total build out of the project. But you're going to have to look at whether or not in total you wind up crossing 5 acres of impervious threshold for all the roof and pavement and all that. If you hit that mark at the final build out that might come, then you trigger. That's one of the triggers for MIPA that you might need to worry about.
Right. No, we understand that, and we've actually engaged counsel on our side to take a look at the legal mechanism that would require us to file with MIPA. We're in the process of making sure that we're kind of squeaky clean on that, for lack of a better way to say. But we are very much aware, and that's on our radar.
Great.
Yeah, because I know MIPA, I mean, obviously this is going to be a phased project.
Mhm.
And under the MIPA regs, they don't allow for project segmentation. So
Right.
I think Matt's interpretation about the cumulative impacts is correct. But so we'll await your, that will not affect the ORAD, but it's something that if you do cross that threshold there, it's probably in your best interest to get that process rolling.
Absolutely. It's not a short process, and especially right now, it seems like most state organizations are taking a little longer than usual.
That's true, but in your favor, you'll have an ORAD in hand, delineating a portion of it, and so that might assist you in that review.
Sure. Excellent.
Are there any questions? Questions from the commission on this? Comments?
No, all the cleanup looked very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, no question.
And I'd just say, Eric, beautiful plans, very legible. It's so nice to be able to actually see, with colors and other things, it's nice to review.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you for all your work.
So how long do you think it will take to get those revised plans? It's relatively simple.
Yeah, I can have them back to you within a week. My question, Mr. Chairman, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, but it sounds like there's only 3 action items, and they're really just things that need to go on the plan. Is that something that we can condition?
No, we need the plans of record to reflect exactly what happened in the field. So we will need those plans, but I'll tell you what we'll do. As we frequently do, we don't like to close a hearing because then we're under the gun for the 21 days. And it's a little difficult sometimes, especially with the workload that we find ourselves undertaking right now. What we'll do, I'd like to continue this to September 8th, at which time we will have the ORAD prepared.
Okay,
That's provided we get the revised plans, because
sure, absolutely.
obviously they have to be reflected in the ORAD.
And is there a date, just so I know, is there a date certain that you need the plans by in order to make the 8th happen?
If you could have it at least by Wednesday, and I'm not
That's-
talking about 5 o'clock or noon or midnight, I'm talking about Wednesday morning.
Real Wednesday.
Real
the
Wednesday,
Wednesday
yeah.
before, both the PDF copies, electronic copies, and 2 plan sets, please.
PDF, 2 plan sets. In PDF. All right, so if we push this to the 8th and we provide those by Wednesday, I mean, otherwise, we wouldn't be able to sign the ORAD before the 8th anyway at this point.
That is correct, because what we'll do, we'll have the plans.
Yeah.
We'll distribute them to the commission. It's a relatively simple process on your end and on our end. In the meantime, we'll be working on the ORAD, and we'll get that distributed as well. So what we would anticipate doing is a 5-minute hearing. We open the hearing. We say all the items have been addressed. The ORAD's been distributed. We vote to close and issue. And then it's just a question of getting together for signatures.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah, I think we're in good shape. I think that's as good as we're going to do tonight.
All right. Well, I think we did some pretty good work here.
I think so.
Okay, that being the case, I will entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of September 8th at 8:25.
So moved.
Okay, Ariana, on a second. We've been advised that we have to poll the members. Neil,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Noel,
Aye.
and Ariane.
Aye.
Okay, by unanimous vote. Thank you very much.
All right, great. Thank you guys for your time. We appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
take care now.
I think I'm gonna excuse myself if you don't mind.
That's
No,
fine.
You're gonna
thank
play,
you.
get a few licks in?
Yeah, we're jamming tomorrow. I gotta get some practice.
Good for you. Have fun. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Good to see you all.
Take care now.
Bye.
Well, that cleared out the room, didn't it?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's like almost when the select board's interested in something and they leave.
okay, the Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearing in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for the confirmation of 4,200 linear feet of delineated bordering vegetative wetlands located at Assessors Map 38, lots 23 and 23-1, 150 and 152 Depot Street, Bellingham. Nicole Hayes, Goddard Consulting, Northborough, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Efren Gersenberg on New Durham Road, Edison, New Jersey. The continuations will be held via the Zoom online option on Wednesday, August 25th at 7:30. Sorry, 7:30. I'm moving things along a little too quickly.
Well, good evening. This is Scott Goddard from Goddard Consulting. How are you all this evening?
Hi, Scott.
Hey there. So it looks like ANRADs are the order of the day today, huh?
Well,
It
we
does.
know what follows the ANRAD.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the Depot Street ANRAD application for confirmation of all resource areas on the site. The wetlands were delineated by Goddard Consulting, surveyed, and planned, generated by Bowler Engineering. The site was walked by the commission with Nicole not long ago. There were a few modifications made to the delineation. There's some fairly well-defined swale areas out there that I think make for a nice clean delineation. The modifications with Nicole were incorporated into this site plan, and they were really just increasing the terminal nub points of these low swale BVW areas. And then there was one additional depressional feature that was added to the plan. The depressional feature was an isolated feature that was just kind of straddled the property line. It had indications of standing water, but it did not have the requisite vegetation and soils to be an isolated vegetated wetland. But under your bylaw, you regulate isolated land subject to flooding without a minimum size. So even though it's not large enough to be a quarter acre foot ILSF, we put it on the plan and label it as a bylaw only ILSF. So those flags were included as well. Those revised plans were submitted to your board earlier this week. And we're here tonight looking to get an order of resource area delineation issued for this site.
Okay, so actually the terminal nubs, well, first of all, it was a good sidewalk to miss, Scott. It was hotter than blazes.
Yeah.
We spent a couple hours in the field. As the applicant's representative stressed, it was dense, but the boundaries were fairly well defined by grade. The nub areas were easy to be misinterpreted due to an amount of ATV traffic. In fact, we had ATV traffic while we were out there doing the delineation.
Mm-hmm.
The isolated area of flooding, we're going to ask you to revise the plan to show a buffer zone around that, because under our statement of jurisdiction, even though we don't talk about size, we do talk about buffer zones to isolated land that floods. So
I did notice, yeah, and you're right. The label on the plan was labeled as not having a buffer zone, which would be consistent with state laws, not having buffer zones on either BLSF or ILSF. I did read your bylaw and the regulations and the statements of jurisdiction, et cetera. And I don't disagree necessarily with what you're saying. The reason it was labeled that way on the plans was because there was an ANRAD on the site done back in 2004. And we pulled those 2004 site plans. And this is how the area was displayed back on those plans. So in 2004, it was not identified as a local only ILSF. And I'm not sure that to be honest, that I've categorized an area in Bellingham before as local only ILSF. So I presumed based on that prior plan that it would be treated as not having a buffer as well.
No, I understand. And it was before our regulations.
So the regs came after 2004?
Exactly. So this is a new filing.
Okay. Well, in that case, we will have the plan modified to reflect that change. Hopefully, if that's the only thing we're discussing, that we could maybe close the meeting contingent on the receipt of that prior to issuance of the ORAD.
There is one other thing, and it's the area to the northwest. And we looked at that with Nicole, and based on the amount of effort we had put into this, there's a very steep grade, and the buffer zone falls into the middle of that grade. And we were able to avail ourselves of a preliminary conceptual site plan, and it was well outside the buffer zone. So we didn't delineate that resource area that was to the north and to the west. And we'll make note of that in the ORAD.
Okay.
But other than that, and what we're going to do,
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm sorry.
I know that some of our members were not feeling well that day. And I was just wondering, would it be too much of an effort to just try to show us
Oh.
some of the areas that were changed during the site walk, just so that everybody knows what's going on there?
Scott, would you do that for us?
I can share my screen, sure.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Gee, I'm really sorry I missed it now.
Well, you were on vacation.
I wish I had been there.
Michael was not well.
Michael was not feeling
I
well.
was not well.
Ian was not feeling well.
Yeah, it'll be nice to reacquaint ourselves.
Okay,
This would be a lot easier for Brian and
so this is the site plan. This is the cover sheet. And then there's detail sheets behind this. So there's 6 sheets total. This is just the front sheet. So here's the zoom in area. So this feature right here, straddling the property line, is the isolated series. In fact, I'm noticing that it's really not isolated wetland series. It's not really the proper label, but should just be isolated land subject to flooding bylaw only, and the detail sheet states that. So we have a terminal nub point here and here as well. So and that's it.
So, yeah, maybe we can just go to the more detailed sheets for those so that we can get a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh. And, if you would go back, Scott, I'll just point out again that right there. Okay, so if we look at, there it is, that little area of buffer that extends into that's it. And we felt that the effort required to verify that delineation would not be well served, knowing that the buffer zone is in the middle of a fairly steep bank and that the development is going to take place up on the flatter area. So,
Okay. And I don't know if it matters, but like Eric was saying in the last meeting, there are people asking to be admitted, and I seem to have those privileges, so I just admit them as they've popped up here.
Hopefully it's nobody nasty.
oh boy.
So then this is sheet 2, somewhat uneventful. The next sheet, 4 of 6, also somewhat uneventful. This sheet is more important.
Yeah, here we go.
Sheet 5 of 6.
This is sheet 5.
Yes. So this shows the label bylaw only land subject to flooding. We labeled it as no buffer and drew no buffer around it, but that will be, the label will be tweaked and the buffer will be modified as well. So we had some.
And you can actually see right where his cursor is, just a little bit to the north of that is where the ATV cart path or trail is. Yeah, right there, that little area that's not flagged.
Right.
And so that was one where we went primarily with soils, and the only veg really, because it had been disturbed with trees. So, and Nicole and the commission agreed that that was an accurate change.
Yep. And then I think this little terminal point here as well.
It was pretty much the same thing, although the trail doesn't show quite so clearly there, but it's definitely there.
So these flags have an R associated with them, and that was the change that was made. Okay, so that's all on this sheet, and then the last sheet I think is the same as this is now moving a little bit to the left or to the west. So this is the areas we looked at on the last sheet. Now this is no changes were made over here, and that's it.
Okay. Ian, did you have a question?
Well, I was going to suggest, but I don't know if it's really necessary for an issuance of an ORAD, but I noticed that you have in there the 25-foot no disturb zone, and you also have marked the 100-foot buffer zone. I just was curious as to why you didn't mark the 25 to 50 temporary disturbance zone on that. That would be something that would certainly be required when the development.
Yeah, that's fine. We can add the Brandon from Bowler's on this call as well, so he's listening in, I know. And so Brandon, if you could add the 50-foot buffer zone to this, change that labeled on the isolated wetland, and the buffer around that as well, and resubmit a new plan set to the commission. That would be great.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the commission on this? Okay, so Scott, what I'm going to suggest is that we do exactly what we did with the Payne Street one. I know that this is a hot ticket item for Bowler. I imagine that they're going to expedite these minor changes. And what we're going to do, we're going to continue to our next meeting and have the ORAD drafted. And then at our next meeting, we'll close, vote to issue, and get our signatures.
Provided we
get the revised plans, sorry.
Thank you.
You'll have those revised plans post haste, no problem.
I had a feeling.
They came in pretty quickly last time, so I'm not surprised.
Okay. So, if there are no further questions from the commission, I'll entertain a motion to continue this hearing to the evening of September 8th at 8:35.
So moved.
second,
Okay, that's Neil and Mike. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll do roll call vote. Neil,
Yes.
Michael,
yes,
Noel,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and Ariane.
Aye.
Okay, that's a unanimous vote.
All right, well,
Very
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so at the applicant's requests, our next two hearings have been, are going to be continued. And we have moved up our final hearings to take advantage, so we don't have to have another whole hour sitting here making small talk. So at the applicant's request, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing for Route 140 Mechanic Street and roadway improvements. I'd like to continue them to the evening of September 22nd at 7:05.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Noel and Neil, any discussion?
Is this the one that Sage is working on?
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
So, Neil, how vote you?
Oh, okay. Yes.
Michael,
aye, 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 aye.
hey, Noel,
Yes.
Brian,
Aye.
Ariane.
Aye.
Okay, and moving on, we also have a request for continuation for the South Main Street corridor drainage improvements. They are investigating additional water quality mitigation. They've requested a continuation to the evening of September 22nd. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue them to the same time so that if someone needs another continuation, we don't find ourselves in a similar situation that we have been finding ourselves in the past few months, where the day of the meeting, we're getting requests for continuations. So rather than start all of our meetings, all of our hearings at 7 o'clock, well, we're going to start two of them at 7:05, and then we will allow additional time after that. That's the housekeeping portion of it. So I will entertain a motion to continue the hearing for the Mechanic Street, South Main Street roadway improvements to the evening of September 22nd at 7:05.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's Neil and Brian. Neil,
Yes.
Michael,
We ever just say no if they ask for continuation? say no, you have to show up?
Well, you know what, if it's for a reason that meets the performance standards, like, you know, investigating water quality improvements that weren't in the original plan, or if it means we need to wait for peer review responses, and that's what we get most of the time.
Right, it's more the occasion where it's like the 8th time they've asked for continuation, which has happened to a few developers, not this project, but obviously it has happened before. I'm just curious as to whether we ever just say no sometimes. Just say no as a, you know, mantra.
No, because what happens there is you get into a denial and it's going to go to court, and the judge is going to say, well, why did you do that? You know, the record shows that they were slowly providing required information. You gotta
If
get
there
the
were.
judge.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to add to that if I could. I just want to comment, Mike, that sometimes, you know, the commission members are very patient with our applicants, and we request them to provide information. And when we ask it over and over and over, and they neglect to do that, we could be in a situation where we don't continue. But we try to give our applicants the opportunity to respond to our requests as much as possible, just so that things move smoothly.
And as we've seen with some recent hearings, our patience, our long running patience, has been rewarded with a better project. So.
Okay, well, having said that, heard all that, thank you. I understand denial is not just a river in Egypt. So I will say aye.
Thank you.
And Brian,
Aye.
Noel,
Aye.
Mary Ann.
Aye.
Okay, by unanimous vote. So I want to thank our next two applicants for allowing us to move the agenda forward. And we will move on with the next continuation. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, on notice of intent for the proposed construction of a 30 by 36 addition onto an existing house located within a 100-foot buffer zone, bordering vegetated wetlands, located at Assessor's Map 75, Parcel 7A-13, 16 Buffy Road, Bellingham. Margaret Bacon, Civil Site Engineering, Uxbridge, Mass, has submitted the filing on behalf of Evan Piatti, 16 Bellingham. The continuation will be held on the evening of August 25th at 7:45. Okay, Margaret.
Good evening. Since the last meeting, there was a minor change to the plan. Is it okay if I share my screen? Can you see that okay?
It's coming. There it is.
There we go.
Okay. At the last meeting, the board had a couple of comments regarding putting placards on the fence, straightening out the fence a little, the blueberry bushes. I made all those revisions. But then after that, it was brought to my attention there might be a little additional pavement added to the driveway coming into the new addition. And you can see this little area here, hatch, that's additional impervious area on this plan. And one of the members asked last week about the change in that impervious area, and I did put a little table over here, basically quantifying the amount of new impervious area and the amount that's being removed. And really there's a net gain of about 275 square feet. And that includes this new impervious, and then the new building, obviously, and then the existing pavement that's to be removed. So that's really the only change from the last meeting.
So,
Other than your comments from the last meeting included on this plan.
so the administrator and I went out there and looked. The wetland delineation is accurate. The area that the blueberries are being planted in now was well within the 25-foot no disturb zone. But at the time that this was permitted, there was no 25-foot no disturb zone. So by straightening out the fence, we were able to, if you will, reclaim that area with more valuable plantings. I think, I know Neil and Mike had questions. Does this address your questions here?
Yes.
Can't hear you, Mike.
Sorry, yeah, could you, Margaret, just say again what you said about the net change being 200 some odd square feet? That means 200 square feet more of paved area than was there before, even after taking off that curve of the driveway, correct?
Correct. So, yeah, taking out the existing pavement, but then adding this new pavement and then the new building. Yeah, there's a net gain of 275 square feet.
And what was it before the paved additional little slice there that was added?
It was probably about even.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I thought you were saying it was, substantially more, but I don't remember what the previous measurement was, or the new one after this additional slice.
I didn't quantify it the last time, but I did this time, and I can't imagine that this little piece is much more than 200 square feet. So it's probably about a wash the last time before we added this.
I think we extrapolated that, verbally last time. That area, both the areas that are being impacted now are currently lawn. It's because the lawn extends virtually to the edge of the resource area.
Yeah, you can see it right up here.
Right.
And
to
the area-
inside of the photo, the lawn goes right up to the resource area.
And the area behind the fence is going to be no disturb, correct?
Correct. And Ian will have, that'll be in the condition. I think we have that. In the
I
condition.
think the draft, some draft conditions may have been sent out.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just have one comment, if I may. So Margaret, I was talking to Bill Morris when he dropped off the plans, and I don't know that the applicant is with us this evening, but I guess the concern here is that these restrictions that we're including in the permit will be conveyed to the applicant so that they know what their responsibilities are in the future. Particular concern is to make sure that, the plantings get in and the fence does get in. I don't think that they were responsible for not having that fence put in. They may have been a second purchaser on the property, but these are important things to get to convey to the applicant so that we are able to issue a certificate of compliance soon.
Sure. He's aware of what's required.
Okay, because again, it'll be the standard prohibitions for the no disturbance zone, no construction, no deposition of yard wastes or brush or anything like that. So. Any other questions or comments? So we ready? All right. I will entertain a motion to close the hearing and issue the order of conditions.
So moved.
Michael.
Second.
Okay, Brian. Once again, Neil.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Brian.
Aye.
Noel.
Aye.
Mary Ann.
Aye.
Okay, that's by unanimous vote.
And Margaret, just to confirm, may I send the one-sided order of conditions to you at your office?
Actually, I think the owner is gonna pick them up, or I'll have you mail it to him. Can I confirm that with you tomorrow?
That would be great. Thank you. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
And while we're talking about it, what's our availability for signature?
We stand as always, Mr. Chair, ready to serve or sign or whatever. Pencil me in for whenever you want.
Well, if anyone can make it during the weekday, that's always convenient. If not, then we can set it up for a Saturday morning. So.
I'll see you tomorrow. How about that?
Just give me a heads up that you're coming, all right?
All right. Heads up, I'm coming down tomorrow. There you
If,
go.
if we need to get signatures on Saturday morning, I'll be very happy to go to the office if that's not too much of an imposition.
Well, I know I'll be available for signature.
I can't do anything till next week.
Okay, we
Okay.
understand.
Yes, thank you, Brian.
And I believe I can be available Saturday, but I'm gonna have to confirm that with you tomorrow.
That's fine. That would be great. That was Noel.
That was Noel.
Yeah, just let me know. So that
Okay,
would be
we'll send out a plea for help if it doesn't look like we can have a quorum signing.
in desperation.
Desperation. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
There's no AC here.
Huh.
That building usually holds the cold from the winter through late June anyway.
It's all gone. Yeah, the cold is gone.
Yes.
What we're doing is we're working out our winter heat now. We're banking.
Yeah,
our-
it'll hold the heat till Thanksgiving at least.
Yeah, that's about
That's about right, yeah. And this is our heat bank.
Passive solar.
Okay, the Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold public hearings in accordance with the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the notice of intent for the proposed construction of a single-family home, driveway, deck, pool, grading, and utilities located within a 100-foot buffer zone to a vernal pool at Assessor's Map 87, Lot 63-11, 1 Wesleyan Lane, Bellingham. Peter Lavoie, Landmark Site Design, Taunton, Mass. Has submitted the filing on behalf of John and Kelly Animate, Foxborough, Mass. The hearings will be held at the via the online Zoom option on Wednesday, August 25th at 8. Okay, Noel, if you would share the screen so Peter can put up the plan,
So you want me to share it?
please.
There it is. Good evening. My name's Peter Lavoie. I work with Landmark Site Design. I'm here representing John and Kelly. They are the hopefully soon-to-be owners of 1 Wesleyan Lane. So we have an existing lot, which is roughly 50,000 square feet in size. As you can see, we have a Mass Electric easement that runs through the middle of that parcel. There is a new cul-de-sac that has been constructed. That Wesleyan Lane is recently been constructed. Off-site, you see at the top of the plan is a potential vernal pool that was indicated on the design plan that Andrews Engineering had done in 2017. So basically what we want to do is we want to construct a single-family house as shown on the plan, the driveway coming off the cul-de-sac, side entrance into the house, and then a small or a in-ground swimming pool in the backyard. There will be no disturbance within the first 50 feet of that vernal pool. There will be disturbance within the 50 to the 100. We're basically adding roughly 225 square feet of impervious in that offset between the 50 and the 100. The house will be serviced by town water and town sewer. And that's basically the project.
Okay. A couple of general questions. The first question is, so this is a subdivision, approved subdivision?
It was approved in 2018.
And the stormwater management system? Where?
I was out there today. It didn't seem like there's some detention basins up near the cul-de-sac that have not been constructed. But the road is in. I don't know much about the subdivision design.
Well, okay, so we're probably gonna need some clarification because, I mean, normally home construction doesn't start until at least the stormwater management system is roughed out. Because that has to be constructed before occupancy can be granted. So that's something that's not jurisdictional to us, but it's something that on behalf of your applicant, you may want to investigate, because they'll be very unhappy if they build a house and either A, can't sell it, or B, can't move in because the stormwater management system was never constructed.
Yeah, I'll have to check that. I mean, I drove out there. I didn't see anything out there, but I could have been looking in the wrong spot.
Okay, and the second thing is, the administrator has been contacted, and it appears that that Mass Electric easement is in the process of being extinguished.
I did hear something about that. One of the abutters had contacted me on that, but at this point, when the plan was submitted, I had no idea about that easement being removed.
Okay, I understand. And so what happens here is, you know, in accordance with the regulations, we're always looking to avoid, minimize, and mitigate. And if that easement's extinguished, then the house can be moved further to the south and eliminate further impact to the buffer zone. And the vernal pool is not potential. Vernal pool is a locally recognized vernal pool under our regulations. Photographic evidence of wood frog egg masses. So it's not potential. Under the local, it is a vernal pool. Just so
Okay.
So
Okay, I'll make a note of that.
okay, and so that's why we're being very cautious here. And I think if that easement is extinguished, then, you know, it works to everybody's benefit. Less pavement, flatter grades, and from our perspective, further reduction of impacts into the buffer zone to the vernal pool.
Okay, no, I understand.
Okay, can we check it? So you're going to check into that?
Yeah, I'll talk to my clients about that and find out what they would like to do. Like I said, we just found out last week about the easement, and the plans and the notice they were already submitted to the town.
We understand. I think, when did you find out about it? It was only about,
I just found
just
out.
found out about probably the same time you did.
Okay.
But we're always looking for alternatives, and this looks like a good one.
No, I would say if we move the house forward, the driveway would be shorter, less money for the driveway
Exactly.
and the utilities, so.
Right.
I just hadn't heard anything from my client, so
Okay.
I'll talk to them.
All right, now I know we have an abutter here. Mr. Devine, do you have any questions for the commission?
No, sir.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I have a couple questions.
go right ahead.
So if we could, I'm looking on Amy's Dropbox link there. So give me 1 second. Let me just try to minimize the screen. Screen. Okay. The very first page, Peter, of your submittal and the
Yes.
project narrative dated 8/5/2021, which is a ways down in the document. I think it's page 19 out of 30. Those should be the same, correct? As far as the description of the work, scope of work and so forth, because they seem
They
to
should-
be in
should be
conflict
the
with
same.
each other. And I'll read you the example. The very first page, it talks about all work proposed does fall within the 100-foot buffer zone to a vernal pool. Unless that's a typo, you had just stated that nothing was going to be. No work is performed within the 50-foot buffer zone. So that's the opening cover letter, but to the Concom. And then on page 19, the narrative, project narrative, I'll just jump down to the existing lots slope down to the roadway. The project will consist of a driveway, house, deck, pool area, all utilities. Small portion of the proposed work falls within the 100-foot buffer zone to the vernal pool located off-site. There'll be no disturbance within the 50-foot to the vernal pool. The total disturbance within the 50 to 100-foot will be 5,000 some odd square feet. So you're saying there's no disturbance within the 50. There's
Correct.
a small portion of the proposed work falls within the 100-foot, but at the very beginning, you state that all the proposed work does fall within the 100-foot buffer. So those are opposite statements in my view. I don't know if the commission agrees that that's a conflict of statement. One way or the other. It's either all within it or it's not all within it, but
Well,
it can't be both.
It's within the 100, but it's in the 50 to 100.
It's just a play on, it's just the wording that he used. I think the intent was to say that the work is occurring within the 100-foot buffer zone to the vernal pool.
Right.
But only up to 50 feet, 50 to 100 is where the actual activity is taking place. So
Right,
it's-
that's what I was trying to say.
All
That-
of the
the
work versus a small portion of the proposed work, both falling within the 100.
I can fix that. I'll fix it so they match and they're correct.
So which one would it be, in your view, Peter? Is it a small portion of the proposed work is within the 100 or all of the work is within the 100?
I would say a small portion because the house, the driveway, everything is outside of the 100. It's just the backyard where there's going to be grass, an in-ground swimming pool, and 100 square feet of the driveway. So that's out of the whole project, that would be a small portion of the project falls within I should have said within the 100 to 50-foot buffer to the vernal pool. That's what I should have said. I can fix that.
Okay,
So
it
makes sense.
then in the 19, is page 19, the narrative, it talks about the total disturbance will be 5,039 square feet. That's house, driveway, pool, yard work as well.
Correct. That's the
Okay.
house, the
Out
pool.
of the total disturbance allowed will be 17,000 square feet though. So you're saying total disturbance twice, and you can't have it twice. It's either
No.
the total disturbance on the lot is 17,000 square feet, of which 5,000 is within the 500 to 50 to 100. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm trying to say. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And the whole lot is 50,000 square feet, right? 50,427.
That is correct. Yep.
Okay. So I would question the term. I think it's highly inaccurate to use it. Small portion of the proposed work falls within 100 foot. A small portion is not articulating the, describing a quantity. And if you're disturbing 17,000 square feet overall in the lot out of 50,000, there's a fair bit of disturbance in the lot happening. So I think you need to quantify the small portion, and saying that a small amount is happening, it sounds like quite a bit is happening.
Okay.
The section that talks about number of trees to be taken down, tree cutting, it has nothing put there. Isn't this a wooded lot right now?
No, this lot's been already cleared
Okay.
up to that. It's been already cleared up to that. I mean, like I said, I went out there today to verify what was cleared, what was not. On the original design of the subdivision, they had a erosion control, and from what I saw, the whole lot was cleared up to that mark. But I'm not 100%. I didn't locate it, but it looked like no trees would have to come down to build what I'm showing on the plan.
I just thought I saw it referred to as being a wooded lot somewhere, wooded and on one of the pages of general information or something, I just thought maybe it was prior to no disturbance or guarding will occur within 50 foot to the vernal, to the vernal pool, yeah. Anyway, okay, so you're saying it's not a wooded lot now currently?
A portion of it is wooded, a portion of it has been cleared.
I think Peter is correct. When this subdivision, I don't know if you remember the history of this, but there was the question of whether or not there was a vernal pool next door, and the abutter was very intent on making sure that that was to verify if it were a vernal pool or not. And we went out there several times, if you recall. I think several of us were out there. We had a little difficulty the first year. The second year, because this went through the planning board and it was taking a little bit of time. So there was a lag of months. When we got out there the next spring, it was indeed a vibrant vernal pool. And I remember witnessing it. I know Cliff did, and I think we have pictures and we have it all marked in our records. But the bottom line is this site was not jurisdictional to the Conservation Commission. Therefore, they cleared the lots. When we found out that there was a vernal pool, we said, whoa, you gotta stay out of that 50-foot buffer zone. And that's none of that area from 0 to 50 feet of that vernal pool should have any disturbance to it at this time.
See, originally, the stormwater management system was proposed to outlet there. And we put a stop to that because it was within the 50 feet of the vernal pool.
So work has occurred in the buffer zone with or without a permit?
At the time that the work occurred, it was a non-jurisdictional planning board filing. At the abutter's request, we went out and looked at what was a potential vernal pool, and we determined there was no vernal pool life. The lag in permitting allowed us to go out a second spring, and there was a lot of vernal pool life. That's when we made the determination. We didn't make the determination that was a vernal pool because we could find nothing the first year.
So the permit had already been issued and the work had already been
For
done?
the planning board.
That is correct.
Okay.
Now, don't forget, that parcel was spared, so to speak. That's supposed to, it's classified right now as a non-buildable lot. And it has the vernal pool sitting on it, and it also has this easement on it.
Not the lot that's being proposed now.
No,
The one to the right of it.
This is the abutting lot.
it's a parcel, not a buildable lot.
So on project description, number 7, it does say existing condition where the work is proposed and is wooded and natural area is checked off. So that's not accurate. It's been.
This is not accurate.
Okay. One other question I had, which was looking at the plan and seeing where the, one second, I'm going back to the meeting plan. Options full screen. Where the yard is shown. Can you zoom in on the top of the plan there, Peter, where the pool and the property line and so forth is? All right, thanks. That's it. So where is the yard proposed to end? It doesn't really show where disturbance is going to be happening for the yard and so forth. I know they're not going to stop right where the edge of the pool is. It's going to go beyond that. And it does slope downward in that direction towards the vernal pool.
So my proposed grading ends right here.
So see, Mike, we're not even getting to the point where we're gonna have some sort of a barrier, fencing, signage or whatever, because what we're asking the applicant to do is investigate whether or not the easement's going to be extinguished, in which case they're going to move the house.
Right. If they do, all great, terrific, that a lot of the issues go away. But if they don't, for some reason, or that easement thing isn't going to happen in a timely fashion and they want to build the house before that or something, you know.
Then we'll have to ask for changes to be made to this plan to offer the permanent protection that we always get.
Right, right.
I don't want to ask them to do something that they may not have to do anyway, because it works for everybody to move the house.
Yeah, no, that was news as of this meeting, so that's that.
You know, it's
helped.
news to us
Yep.
as of like 4 days ago, so.
Yep.
But this is what we try to do.
Okay.
All right, so Peter, well, first of all, are there any other questions? Comments? Peter, you've got some homework to do here. When do you think you're going to be ready?
I'd like to, I'll be ready for you. When do you need the information for your next meeting? What's the deadline?
Well, it'll be a week from now.
A week from today? Okay. It's just gonna be a phone call, basically, see what my client wants to do. And then I'll let Ann know as soon as I know that I'll be revising the plan and dropping it off.
So you think that you can be ready in 2 weeks?
Yes, yep, 1 week.
See, where we've been running into trouble, Peter, is people say that, and then the night of the hearing, we get a phone call saying, I'm not ready. And it wreaks havoc with our meeting, as you saw tonight. It worked for your benefit.
Yes, it did.
But if it happens in the middle of the meeting, it could be problematic. So I'm going to ask you to please emphasize the importance of moving this forward. I mean,
And a serious investigation of the extinguishment of that easement,
right.
because I understood from my conversation with someone that it was very close in time to happening. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is true, that would be the alternative that we would like the applicant to seek.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I know about one of the neighbors contacted me and he did tell me about the reduction of that easement. And I also told my client, it's just that I hadn't heard back. Maybe my fault, I didn't follow up, but I will definitely follow up knowing now that the commission would like that house moved forward. So, I mean, I feel it would benefit my client as well as the commission.
Agreed. All right. And then based on your assurance that you'll be prepared, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of September 8th at 8:40.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mary Ann and Brian. Neil,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Noel.
Yes, I also made the first motion just for clarification.
Oh, okay. I thought it was, sorry.
Okay.
Brian
Aye.
and Aaron.
Aye.
Brian and Ariane. Okay. All right. So that's a unanimous vote.
Right, so let's continue to September 8th. Okay, terrific.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll just have one order to sign. And
Okay, I think that,
so you could just reach out to me tomorrow, if you don't mind, folks. Let me know if you can, if we can make it, when we can make arrangements to sign things. I appreciate
okay.
it.
Be there around 10. All right, thanks.
Frank hung on to the bitter end. You know, it's funny because when I was looking over your left shoulder at first, I thought, oh, it's the freezing of Niagara Falls. But then I saw the bat people and I thought, uh-oh. I don't think the chemicals are quite like that.
No, not like that. And this is just a fictitious picture coming out of that whole story. So there's some very weird stuff in the world, I have to tell you. So there's much stuff that applies to today that's already been done many times before. So that's okay.
Okay, well, we're really happy with the work that Matt did on the Payne Street project. It was was a lot of work. It was a big site.
That was,
We went out there and he had already made corrections with the applicant, and we had very little to do. So it was a good job. All right, motion to adjourn.
Take care, folks. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
So moved.
Second.
thank you.
Aye.
Take care.
Take
Okay,
care.
good night, everyone.
It was good to see Peter Lavoy again. I guess those smart pills didn't work.
Nice to see you, Brian.
Good seeing everyone.
Have a good night, everyone.
Take care.
Mel has to give you something. Does she have to give